Dang, we are live. All right, now I'm going to go live on Instagram, which should be. It's got to update now. I can. Boom. All right, we're live on Instagram now too. Yeah, figure give it a little bit. Wait for it to go out there. Get some viewers logged in. Get some viewers up in here before we start yipping and yapping away. But as we got some guys on Twitter jumping in. What's going on, everyone? I'm Mike Lombard with Truck Parking Club. Welcome to the Clubhouse, which, by the way, the Clubhouse is about to be a regular weekly event where we're just going to get some drivers up here, people who partner with us at Truck Parking Club, and we're just going to be having conversations and just be, again, for those of you guys popping in on Twitter, it'll kind of just be like an interactive, live space where drivers come on, talk about what's going on. We'll have a general topic of what we're talking about. Next, we'll be live on here next Monday. We're going to talk about truck leases, the idea of doing lease purchases, lease trucks. But as some viewers come in, today's topic, been really wanting to do this because this is important. Because I think for people who don't know, and I just recorded a podcast with the VP of Corporate Strategy over at Truck Stop, Sean Dehan, a great individual there, and he was talking big about how Truck Stop has really been focused on being for the independent driver, being for independent drivers, and really partnering with them, like not only viewing them as a customer but as a partner, because Truck Stop doesn't win unless they do. And it's really the same thing with Truck Parking Club. Is the most important people in this industry are the ones behind the wheel, and so continuing to grow a community behind that is super important. And hey, I got one of our guys today, Jeremy. What's happening, dude? Jump in here.
Hey, how we doing? Can you guys hear me okay? Sorry if my service is pretty bad right now, so if I'm cutting out on you guys, I apologize. But no, things are going good for me here. Just training here in Wisconsin and enjoying riding shotgun. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, where are you tuning in from? Where are you jumping in over the road?
Right now, to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, to Menards DC up there. It's one of the biggest DCs I've ever seen. I don't know if anybody's ever been there before, but it's like feels like 5 square miles and dozens and dozens of buildings. So you can really get lost at a place like this. So it's going to be a fun. I know where I'm going though, thankfully. But the first time anybody gets there, they really need pointed in the right direction. One of those places.
It's I've been to that Menards DC. I've delivered there. I have a funny story. And what's great is, and by the way, for anybody tuning in live, you can see that Jeremy he's not driving an autonomous truck. He's not holding a steering wheel.
I wish.
He is actively, he's working with a driver now that he's got in the driver's seat that he's training, who's doing a great job. But funny story about that Menards DC, a lot of times we get, drivers get pissed off about detention, waiting at shippers and receivers. And crazy enough, it was like one of the first times I really let something roll off my shoulder. When I went to that Menards DC, I was working as an owner operator. I was leased on with R&R Solutions, and I had booked a load. It was going to, and it had on the rate con that the load could deliver anytime. It was first come, first serve, 8 to noon, 8 to noon on Saturday. Like it was able to go there. I technically could have delivered it Friday, but like with just hours and the distance it was going, like I couldn't have realistically gotten there on a Friday. And so I got to that Menards DC at like 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. And because the rate con said 8 to noon, first come, first serve. And I got to the gate and I pulled up, and the guy was super nice. And again, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, this is the Midwest, with these guys are super, super nice, super, the nicest guy. And he was like, tell me, he's like, hey man, I'm really sorry. You're normally I'd be able to get you in here. But so it was like, I want to say it was October or November, and it was an 80-degree day in Wisconsin. So the weather was beautiful. And he's like, we're only working with a skeleton crew today because, everybody has the day off. Most of the place had the day off because the weather was good. And since the weather was good, they gave like most of the warehouse and everybody. So they were only unloading. Menards trucks. Like they were like specifically. So this was like an anomaly. It's not like I was late I was like there past the time, but they were only unloading Menards trucks because of a skeleton crew. And when I saw that, I was like, you know what? I was like, I couldn't respect it more. I was like, because
Yeah.
those warehouse workers deserve it. And like, what a region of the country, like they like when something good is given to them, like it's an 80-degree day and an end of October, November in Wisconsin, where it's supposed to be like cold and they're already getting ready for snow. They're like, hey, you guys should be out enjoying this instead
Yeah.
of working. And I just, there's parts of the country that does that. Montana does that in the summertime. Like I've ran the Missoula Marathon twice as a trucker, and Missoula in the summertime from basically Memorial Day right to Labor Day, they have summer hours. They're like everything's really short and people work less because everybody is outside. Everybody's hunting, fishing, camping, canoeing, doing stuff on the river because they only have this short window of time to enjoy where they live, and with it not being literally like Antarctic. So it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, good on leadership too for being able to, see these ways that can boost morale, because I think that's when you create a culture at any kind of company or anything like that. It's things like this that really create that atmosphere where you retain people, because we all know how hard it is to retain drivers and stuff. I bet if something similar to that could be applied, I think drivers would be receive that very well too. So yeah, just spotting those things.
Yeah, big time stuff. Just tricks of the trade out there for anybody in business. But hey, we're doing it. We've got some live viewers coming in. But by the way, if you're jumping in on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you guys are tuning in, feel free to drop a comment. Instagram, drop a comment. See where you are. If you have any questions, we're gonna be talking a little bit about nutrition. Again, this is one of the when we talk about trucking, I think that the most important thing are knowing the rules, the regulations. We're in the middle of we've got DOT Blitz Week coming on. We've got there's a lot you need to know to be successful, whether owner, operator, or driver, and knowing how to do the job is really important. Between hours of service and route planning, and all that is definitely very much priority one. But priority two, and again, it's a big thing that we're all about at Truck Parking Club. It's a big thing. It's a movement that's really starting to pick up throughout the industry, is the fact that the average life expectancy of a driver, like let's hit it with the stats. The reason why we're talking about this, the average life expectancy of a driver is 61. Remove 16 years off of one's life. It's not okay. The rates of chronic disease in the trucking industry are double that of the U.S. working class population. And this is based off of CDC data. So, for example, about 33% of Americans, the American workforce, is type 2 diabetic. In contrast, in just the trucking industry alone, it's 2/3 of the trucking industry is living with diabetes, and same thing, 2/3 of the industry is living with one or more chronic diseases. And in reality, those things are preventable. So for the most part, like not all of it is preventable, but for the most part, a lot of it is. And it starts, movement, daily movement, moving your body is a part of it. But there's an old saying in the fitness industry that, abs are made in the kitchen, not in the weight room. When it comes to your weight loss or weight management, and so nutrition's key. So, and I think that's the best place for a driver to start, because it might be hard to get yourself moving with it being a tough job. It's something that I built a really good habit in, and I think the best way to start moving is definitely walking. But the first thing you can do if you're looking to make a change, or you want to avoid chronic disease, you want to avoid ailments, and you want to do things like keep your blood pressure down for your DOT physical, is being cognizant of kind of the food you're taking in. So I wanted to kind of pick off you, before we get into really anything, what's your day-to-day out there been looking like for you, Jeremy, especially if you're training a student? Kind of what are you relaying to them? What's your overall, what's your diet looking like?
Yeah, no, I'm always preparing meals, and I'll share meals with the people that I train as well too. Just kind of, I have an air fryer in here, and I've also, I've made content in the past where I'd go make crazy breakfasts with skillets and stuff like that. But I think the main point that I think anybody should take away from nutrition and trucking is if the easiest thing to do is just not to buy junk food to bring into your truck. So when you're shopping, just bring into your truck stuff that, it might be a little bit more effort to prepare some of the food, but it'll be worth it because you're creating that environment where you have the quality nutrition right there. And, if you avoid buying things, because you don't have to do anything to not buy something at a truck stop, right? So if you're going to a truck stop, yeah, it's just all junk food. It's expensive, overpriced, poison, essentially, pretty much. So just stopping doing that stuff and like, hey, I got plenty of food in my truck that's way higher quality, and that's probably the easiest thing to do. Just not bring in bad stuff for your diet, and then you can build on there and start to look up air fryer recipes that you like, and just get into a groove of tweaking your diet with whatever it might be, because different people have different dietary preferences and goals too. So
I think that's the best place to start, is where are you getting the food? And it starts like coming off home time. It starts, if you're doing 2-3 weeks out, you've probably got to do a reset, or even if you're running recaps, you can find yourself in a position to where you're stocking. And I think that that's the best starting point that you can give is, avoid the truck stops. Are there truck stop strategies? So, and I'll get into macros in a minute and what they are, because I know when people hear that word, they'll be deterred. When people think about it's just like finance. So like overall, so I mean, for anybody tuning in, when it comes to weight management and just controlling your blood pressure, controlling your blood sugar, it really there's like, and this is in the book is right behind me, called Outlive by Peter T, and I highly recommend it to anybody. And there's a great example of a gentleman. He's a doctor. I forget it was North Carolina, but if you Google the Twinkie diet, so if you Google this guy who did a Twinkie diet, essentially for several months or weeks, a certain amount of time, he was only eating literally junk food. So he was only eating Twinkies, primarily Twinkies, like Cheetos and everything, but he was only consuming 1,800 calories a day. So again, so the first thing up there, so he was only consuming this much. And what he ended up doing was he lost like almost 30 pounds, but not just in the weight loss, he also, his vitals improved. Like, so his resting heart rate was lower, his blood pressure went down, his like so many metrics within like his overall blood work improved simply by being in a caloric deficit. So just by cutting his calories, even though he was eating, I don't recommend this diet, nobody should do this, but the truck stops, you can do this. So, and I'll get into tracking macros in a moment, because I think it's the only way to win as a driver, because you don't have the opportunity to get up like somebody who's working a desk job, to get up and kind of walk around and throw a headset on. Like you've only got certain windows of time to get movement in. Kind of like, just like if you're doing a budget, and if you're an owner operator who's watching this, this, and you're an owner operator yourself, like, that the only way to run a business is how much money am I making? How much money comes in? How much money comes out? Like it's, that's it. There's no other, if you want to save money, if you're trying to establish wealth for your family, the only thing you can do is, how much do we make? How much does my wife and I make? Or, how much does my husband and I make, whichever, how much do we make? How much do we spend? So how much is our mortgage, our car payment, car insurance, etc. You need to know that. Then okay, we have this much money left over, and this is kind of where it can go. And it's the same thing with your diet. Big shout out to this guy jumping in, midlife trucker Tom Bell out there. He got his first 2-year deal physical last week. Congratulations, brother. See, again, monumental right there. Like, how much less stress is now in that driver's mind, because he started taking a little bit more control and autonomy over the littlest things. And I think it boils down to food. So good point. Again, when and I would love to hear where you kind of get your food when you're out there for a couple of weeks, but no matter what, I was you can't park there every night, but I grocery shopped at Walmart every week, because might not be able to park overnight, but you can always pull. And I know this, pulling Walmart trailers. When I drove for Pam, you can no matter what, a tractor trailer can pull into every single Walmart, and you can do. And I would grocery shop. I have grocery shopped. I have been in and out of a Walmart in less than 30 seconds. not 30 seconds, less than 30 minutes, just a grocery shop, because I knew exactly what I needed to get, and I had it set up. So yeah, when you're shopping for food, where do you go? Do you save it for home time, or you go into Walmart?
Well, it just depends. Sometimes my schedule, I will just meal prep at home, and so me and my wife we meal prep together for the week, so that way she could have a little bit easier time preparing because I got 4 kids. So I mean, we both pay close attention to our food budget and the content of food or the quality of food that we're consuming as well. But I think what's important to pay attention to is just that pattern recognition. You mentioned knowing where your money is, just like knowing your calories, calorie in, calorie out. You could take a look at a glimpse of your day and kind of see where that's going to take you years down the road. So it's a little bit of the lifestyle. So the little tiny habits that we, build every day is what's going to build the lifestyle that you can look down. You can kind of guess, 35 years down the road where you're going to be at based upon, a 24-hour snapshot of what you're doing every day. If you're sitting every day,
No, exactly. What's crazy is, so I went into, and you're with a student right now who you're training, and I remember, so I didn't know anything about tracking before I went over the road. I had, what I had been doing is I was buying less takeout. I was eating out less, and I was just cooking kind of more whole food meals, whole food being like one ingredient foods. So just like chicken and vegetables, or ground beef and rice and ground beef and vegetables, whatever it may be. I incorporated that more. And by default, I was losing weight because just by eating that, I was reducing my calories without knowing it. But I knew about MyFitnessPal going over the road. And so I knew that I was going with a trainer. So I was going into his home. And so I couldn't bring an air fryer with me yet. I couldn't bring the equipment. But what I did know is I went into MyFitnessPal, and it did, like you said, finding out, where you need to be at for calories. Calories is obviously the most important, and we can get to protein in a minute. But I downloaded MyFitnessPal. It told me that if I wanted to lose 2 pounds a week, that I needed to consume, about 2,000 calories a day. And if my activity level was moderate, so that about 10,000 steps a day, because I knew I was going to make sure I was going to at least get 10,000 steps a day. And so the 2 weeks I was with my trainer, so there were times I had like quote junk food, but I scanned the barcode, I did it, and I stayed within those numbers. And then because you can also, likewise, the same way you can lose 2 pounds a week, you can gain 2 or more in 2 weeks. You can gain 5, 6, 7 pounds in a 2 week span if you're really complacent on it and you're not moving. And so, and doing that for 2 weeks, just that 2 weeks. So I knew I could do it. It took a little bit of grit the first week. It was a little bit tedious. Again, I wasn't driving the entire time, so I was able to kind of punch in certain numbers. But I learned that tracking habit in 2 weeks, and I was like, well, this got to be the standard.
Yeah, absolutely. And just that preventative maintenance on our body is just going to pay out dividends in the end, because the sooner that you could start doing it and the sooner that you value your health and your quality of life, the younger you are. If you let it go, it's a lot harder to get that ship turned around. It doesn't turn around on a dime. But often I think that people pay better attention to their pets or even their truck. Somebody will put more time, energy, money into their truck and maintaining their truck than they do their bodies. And so just taking a little bit of time and maybe even pretending like it's somebody else, like a child. For me, a little bit of a mindset shift for me was, would I allow my child to have the diet that I do? Would I allow that? And that kind of puts it like, okay, taking a little bit more responsibility for the stuff that I'm eating and how I'm taking care of myself, and trying to level it up with the self-care anyway.
No, perfect point. I definitely want to give a shout out. I really appreciate you watching this afternoon, joining the Clubhouse there, Thomas Bell, which Thomas would love. Feel free to drop us a DM message. Would love to talk to you more. You seem like somebody who cares about the industry, wants to help drivers out there. He's got an Alpha Cool and a Hot Logic Mini. He says he does the meal prepping himself. I think meal prepping, again, if you're somebody who doesn't, if you're somebody who's, I think if you're somebody who, because the real problem is the love and addiction to food. And I think that isn't talked about enough. I think overall with the quality of food out there, there's a lot of sugar, a lot of added sugar. People do become addicted to food. It's linked to comfort. There's neurological, there's science behind people becoming addicted to food. And I think, to an extent, like people view food as a reward. It's celebratory. And when you can separate yourself from that is really when you can find success. And meal planning might be it. Like grocery shopping for me is what did it. So I never really meal prepped, but I grocery shopped. And you essentially convince yourself, because if you spend $100 on groceries and then you have a stocked fridge, like if my fridge was stocked in the truck, and if you have the food, you're guilting yourself in essence to where you already spent the money on the food. So why would you go out and buy more when you already have some? So it's like you're kind of giving yourself, when you don't give yourself the out, like not giving yourself an out is the number one. But meal prepping, I've heard just too many testimonies where meal prepping is because if the meal is already ready, where it's just 1 minute in the microwave, you already have it. Why are you going to go out and waste time buying something that tastes a little that might taste better or what have you, or be sweeter, or because like I can't lie, like like a Wendy's Baconator, it's like my favorite food. Wendy's Baconator. I know how good that is, but I know that ground beef mixed with a little bit of vegetables, a little bit of rice, and I just put some freaking Whataburger hot sauce on it, it's gonna be just as good. And the best part is after I eat it, I'm going to have the energy to drive the next 300 miles.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I heard you touch on a couple things that I really would like to comment and expand upon, because one, you said addictive. And I think that's what we got to watch out for. It's not only food, but there's a lot of things like, where are we getting our dopamine from? Where's this coming from? Because if it's the cheap stuff like the sugars and the scrolling and things like this, if that's where we're getting all of our feel goods from, that because they're trying to sell you with it. The marketing strategies for these people are capture your attention, buy our sugar product, this, and so they play on the addictive patterns in people's brains, like more sugar, more scrolling, more whatever it is, OnlyFans girls, anything like that. So keep an eye out for where you're getting your dopamine. And also, let me see where I was going to go with this. There was another thing that you mentioned that was brought up. Oh, there was the work of Ali Crum. She's a psychiatrist, or psychologist anyway, and I heard about her on Andrew Huberman. So he did an interview with this lady, Ali Crum, and she was talking about how our mindsets affect the way our body absorbs nutrition. And I'll highlight the quick experiment, which they talked about in there to kind of give you the, how meaningful this could be. They had a milkshake experiment where they had two groups of people. One group of people, they're like, hey, this is a very diet milkshake, low calorie intake. And the other group of people, they told them it was a very calorie rich, dense milkshake. And they were measuring their hormone responses in their body, their ghrelin hormone specifically, referred to as the hunger hormone. It tells the body to seek out food, to eat more. And so they actually were measuring that. And so in reality, it was the same milkshake. So just based upon what they believed about the milkshake, their bodies absorb the nutritional content differently. And so they said the mindset that you should have whenever you're going to eat healthy, it's that, the diet food that we normally think, the salads. We should think of salads as, decadent and very, like treating yourself. And that would be the optimal mindset to bring whenever you are consuming these foods as well. And just to be aware of how your mindset, because if you're thinking, the salad, it's a very diet salad, I'm not getting enough calories, I'm not getting enough intake, that tells your body another thing. It's like, okay, well, you're going to be hungry, seek out more, so try to, consider that as a potential factor, because yes, there is the nutritional content, but the mindset you bring to the table as well.
Yeah, dude, that's actually really interesting. I'd love to listen to that Huberman Lab. Did you adjust your sound or something at all? You're sounding a little bit different. You're like, I don't want to say.
Still there?
Yeah, no, I can still hear you. Yeah, I think the best way to like piggyback off that is when it comes to choosing what you eat. And big shout out, and anybody who's watching, go find Dr. Mark Manera. He's on LinkedIn. He's on all forms of social media. He owns a company called Off Shift. They help coach motor carriers. He works with enterprise fleets where he has health coaches that work with drivers for larger fleets. And his biggest thing is it's strategy. It's trucking's a tough job. you're working off timelines. Maybe you only have a 30-minute break. So it's very easy to go right into the truck stop and grab the candy bar versus the protein bar. And I think viewing, and Jeremy, I think ducked out for a moment, but viewing, like, how is this serving me? Like, when you look at something, it's the same way you'd take a job. Like, you wouldn't take a job that you don't like. You work your current job because you would hopefully want to do it. How is the job serving you? So how is what you're eating? How is it going to serve you? Is this going to make me better? Is this going to help or hurt me? All the question you need to ask, like, as soon as you come to it, is this going to help or hurt me? No. Same thing. If you're in front of the cooler, is this going to help or hurt me? So between Coke and Diet Coke, and I'm going to dive right into the artificial sweeteners as Jeremy gets things fixed. So a lot of issues. So for those of you who are jumping in live, I was an over-the-road truck driver as well. And while I was working over the road, I am an A certified fitness instructor. So I work in the fitness industry as well. Currently working on my nutrition coaching certification through NASM. And I work with some of the, I work with, and I'm connected with some of the best personal trainers here in Austin, Texas. And I've gotten a lot of information from them. And so a lot of debates I get into with people have everything, with artificial sweeteners and diet sodas. And again, and if you go into the study that a lot of people reference, the artificial sweeteners, I'm just going to flat out say it. They're not bad for you. They're not. You would have to drink, I think it's like 36 diet sodas. It's between 26 and 36 diet sodas per day, every single day for years on end for it to maybe cause cancer, possibly increase your risk of cancer to that extent. And a lot of people took that, they run with it to try to sell you their own course. They try to sell you their own information. They're just trying to market themselves in another way to get a reaction out of people. When, again, as I said just recently, reducing your caloric intake in general will improve as you reduce the amount of calories, and being in a calorie deficit will improve your overall metabolic health more than an artificial sweetener might hurt it. So if we're talking between Coke versus Diet Coke, you're going from, let's put it this way. 2 bottles of Coca-Cola is about the same calories, a little bit less than a double quarter pounder with cheese from McDonald's. Think about that for a second. So like right there is step 1 on how you as a driver can start losing weight, is switch to diet and drink more water. Switching to diet and drink more water. If you're drinking 3 Mountain Dews a day, again, you're talking about it's a burger and fries, like right there. And you can easily switch that up. And I'll bring Jeremy back up in here in just a moment. So that's first and foremost how you view it. Is this serving me? What am I eating? How is it serving me? Is this going to benefit me? I know you jumped out for a second. I got to give another quick shout out to what our guy Tom Bell is doing. He says he prepares his meal on the Hot Logic Mini, and then he takes his break when he parks, cooked, ready to go, no work. I've done the same thing, down to the point where I've been 2 trucks behind the fuel island, where a truck is fueling. One guy's in front of me. I'm behind that guy. So I'm the third in line. And, sometimes you can get caught up at the fuel island for a while. But I have pulled the yellow tab, gotten the air fryer, food scale out, weighed the chicken breast, seasoned it, barbecue seasoning, whatever. Started the air fryer, 20 minutes cooks the chicken breast. The vegetables take 3.5 or what have you. So I've waited in the fuel island line. And then by the time I've gotten fuel and parked, lunch is ready right there. And I don't even need to go to the truck stop unless I got to go to the bathroom, or if I'm going to get, again, and when it comes to beverage options, sometimes I want a Celsius or a Ghost. Again, going for those low, no calorie, better for you options for like energy, or I want to refill coffee and I drink my coffee black. Like that, like at that point, my 30 minutes is up. I've eaten a lunch that is probably anywhere between 500 and 700 calories with 65 grams or more of protein, and then I'm on my way. Like I'm on my way about it. Again, he's popping in here. Which is worse, being 100 pounds overweight or drinking Diet Coke? That's a pretty easy choice. 240 calories versus 0 calories. But when you had to log off real quick, I was talking about there's a lot of people out there who love to naysay and downplay diet beverages. But again, he's exactly right. Like if you were somebody who's extreme, like me, for example, I used to be incredibly overweight. I was almost 280 pounds. And it would be like me at 280 pounds, can't even, cannot compete in any sort of event for me to sit in the position of being almost 280 pounds saying, dude, Diet Coke's bad for you. What merit do I have to go off of to tell anybody what's good or bad for them? A good place. So great point. Appreciate that, Tom. So Jeremy, when it comes to beverage options for you, what's your go-to? What are you drinking throughout the day?
I drink coffee, Celsius, and I like to get the little Celsius packets like from Walmart. You can buy a box of them. They're like come out to like $1 a piece or something like that. So they're not too expensive, but I try to limit my caffeine intake to, one energy drink a day or maybe a couple of cups of coffee, just one, maybe every now and then, depending on the day, I might have a couple energy drinks, but that and just staying hydrated. I know it's, sometimes, we do pretty frequent stops, like short hauls, 200-300 miles for a lot of it. So I get a chance to use the restroom a lot more frequently, but, just staying hydrated. And I put sodium and iodine. Actually, I have an iodine supplement that I've been taking as well too, just little drops of iodine in it to, kind of try to hit some of my minerals and other supplements in my diet as well.
Yeah, good key there with the sodium. I put that in the newsletter, which, by the way, if you're a driver out there, if you're tuning in, if you go to newsletter.truckparkingclub.com, Tail Lights drops every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I always drop a little health tip of the week, and hydration is key. So like just water isn't going to do it. And you do get sodium and potassium through food for sure. But something like it's a common myth. People think that afternoon slump you get, that 1-2 p.m. slump you get is like you need an extra cup of coffee. And when really it's the early signs of dehydration. And again, the first sign of dehydration is fatigue. Like fatigue is going to be the first thing that happens. Like you're not going to have cramps. Like first sign of dehydration isn't cramps or heat cramps or anything like that. It's going to be fatigue. Fatigue is one of the first symptoms of a lot of things. And that's also, besides fatigue, also headaches are one of the first symptoms of dehydration. And then from there, it gets worse. And so it's like you might not need an extra cup of coffee in the afternoon. What you probably need is more sodium and a little bit of potassium. And I think, people think sodium is bad for you. It's like I said, it's too much will be bad for you. Too much obviously can have an effect on your heart rate and your blood pressure to a certain extent. So yeah, you don't want to overdo it, but a lot of it, again, I think the sodium intake that causes people to have high blood pressure. And again, I'm not a doctor or anything, but most people who have high blood pressure because of their sodium intake, it didn't have to do with them. It wasn't because they were drinking too much sodium. It probably has to do with their food. And I would get electrolytes from, like you said, you have the Celsius powders you'd get. There's plenty of better for you. So I'm not saying don't go and buy a full sugar Gatorade, but the zero sugar Gatorade could help. There's other there's powders you can get online. BPN makes them. Those are great things to add, whether in the morning or right at night, to help stave off some fatigue. I gotta give. He's dropping some great comments. He said he gave up coffee once. Worst hour of my life. There's still people in 3 counties talking about it. Yeah, don't give up coffee if you don't want to. Like there's no reason. I get it. I guess there's an argument again with caffeine and blood pressure and over time, but it's like it's just with anything that there's no point. Again, when we think about caffeine, it's a plant derivative. It's there's a nootropic to it. It's not bad for you. So that's another thing. That's another one of those things you don't need to buy into. So you said you got an air fryer. So like what's dinner tonight? What are you gonna grab?
Me, I got some burger and the veggies. I like in the frozen aisle at Walmart, they have the pre-seasoned veggie sides. So I'll pop one of those in the air fryer and just honestly some seasoned burger and some veggies. And last night I had just the mixed salad. I still have a lot of it left because I wanted to eat it before it went bad and everything. So I just in the dish. I know I just poured the ranch. I cut up the cucumber and I had let's see. It was a basic salad: cheese, cucumber, and carrots, and there was a pepper. I had one bell pepper left, and I just threw it all in, kind of this, Frankenstein salad. But it was pretty good.
No, there you go. Yeah, you've already got it in mind. You sound excited about it. It's good. Yeah, I think when it comes to it, when it comes to it, I think a lot of people beat themselves up when they hear, when they hear things about diet and nutrition. They think, boring chicken and rice, and I think they think the bodybuilder method of you got to eat chicken and rice, or you got to do this, or it means you're eating salads, and it's like that's defeating. That's almost like talking yourself out of doing something you want to do. Like when it comes to eating healthy, it's like you're trying to convince yourself that eating healthy is, or eating a little bit better and changing your habits. It's your own brain trying to convince you that it's hard and that you shouldn't do it when you can. And I tell this all the time to people. I've never given up pizza. I've never given up ice cream. I've never given up anything. I will say I haven't drank alcohol since last March, and that's just a personal choice, because of other things I'm doing. And I don't tell people, and people don't need to give that up. I'm friends with marathoners and other people who still enjoy bourbon and beers occasionally. Happens in moderation. That's another hour-long conversation in itself, but I've never given up anything along the way. And you can find the things you like, and then going back to that meal prepping, you figure it out. And so sometimes calories are what scares people, like the idea of counting calories. But another way to approach nutrition in a way of, say you're somebody who doesn't want to overload yourself with tracking or anything like that. If you focus on just one of those things, either calories, I want to bring up protein. So protein itself, if people don't know, is the most important macronutrient there is. You can't live without it. And it's beyond just muscle. Protein affects your hormones, hair growth, sleep, just about every regulatory thing that goes on your body. And it also helps you build and retain lean muscle. Now, when it comes to protein, the more protein you have, the fuller you're going to feel, the more satiated you're going to be, the more natural energy you're going to have. And again, what it's going to do for your hormones, testosterone levels, what have you, it's going to keep your body in check. And if you are only focusing on getting sufficient amount of protein, so you want to ideally be eating 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight. So if you believe at 6 feet tall, you want to weigh this much, you want to weigh 200 pounds, whatever it might be, you think that's a healthy weight, or your high school weight, whatever it might be, that like you should be eating 200 grams of protein per day. And that sounds like a lot. But again, if you're just focusing on protein and you start small of consistently getting 100, people are fooled. Sometimes they think that because they got this one thing or this, it's jam packed with protein. Most people, I'd say, are deficient. They're probably only eating anywhere from 60 to 80 on a higher mark. But when you can consistently hit 100 grams or more per day, and you just focus on making sure everything you're eating has this in it, like this one thing. So ignoring the calories, ignoring the sugar, ignoring this, if you know that if you're getting 30 plus grams of protein, and this is why weighing things out helps. If you know you're getting at least 30 or more grams of protein per meal you're having, you're going to break that 100 point at a certain time. And if you just focus on making sure that the food you're eating has protein, you're probably eliminating stuff that's bad for you in the first place. And that's just another gateway into kind of living a little bit healthier and living a little bit more fit. If you just lock in on the one thing, and it's just like, well, if this doesn't have protein, then what is it worth? Because I think a lot of times because when it comes to calories, so like trail mix, for example, a lot of people think that eating trail mix is healthy. It's not unhealthy. However, trail mix peanuts are very calorie dense, and they're sometimes lower in protein. The serving size are small. The serving size could be a quarter cup, and it's 190 calories, which is, again, just half a cup of trail mix is a Coke, is a full sugar Coca-Cola, if you think about it, when you really do that comparison. And so trail mix is meant for exactly what it's called. It's meant for you going on a very long hike, canoeing trip, whatever, and it's filled with fat that's going to, good fats that are going to give you energy that you're going to burn at a lower zone 2 heart rate, so to speak. So it's very easy to eat a bag of that trail mix. But if you take a look at the protein, you'll be like, oh, that trail mix doesn't have protein. I need to go to this. So yeah, where are you going? What are you going after for protein?
Me, I just basically for the meats, and I do go for some nuts every now and then. Like I say, when I'm shopping down the aisle, I eat dried cranberries is one of the staples in my diet. But just primarily proteins coming from the chicken and burger. That's really the two derivatives. Steaks and just different things like that. I think where I'm coming from on protein, but I know you were talking about protein. I'm not trying to shift gears on you here, but I did want to touch on just the prebiotics and the probiotics in our system, because that's a big part of it as well too. So
Bring them
that
on.
was another thing. Whenever you're buying the yogurts, or I know kombucha or anything like that, any kind of fermented food like sauerkraut and everything like that, this is really going to help with your digestive system as well. To kind of try to balance it, because you want to have everything functioning correctly.
Yeah, no. Are you taking probiotics? Like, are you? What's
I got different supplements as well too. So there's we've probably heard of AG1 and things like that. Athletic greens, people have that, as well as like I say, just the diet food. So just the type of foods that have the good bacteria that we're looking for. Because it's kind of funny to think about that everything on our skin and inside of this tube that is us, there are living organisms that we live in harmony with. And so you got to take care of the good ones, because they're what's helping us break down our food and digest our food. And so it's the same thing with our skin too. People get psoriasis and stuff like that just because they'll have this bacteria growth or this yeast growth or something like that goes out of whack. And so taking good care of the little things that live on and inside of us.
Yeah, no, I don't, like I said, I'm not a shill for supplements in any way, but are there some I take? Yes. Creatine would be the number one supplement I recommend anybody take, mainly because I'll get to like I think athletic greens and forms of greens do serve a purpose, especially for drivers, because you're limited on being able to have access sometimes to where you can naturally get pre and probiotics, like from food. And so I don't think it's a bad idea. And again, I think that when it comes to especially like AG1, they're a brand that has a philosophy that's very built off of like living a healthier lifestyle. And I think getting into, I think the supplement world is a good place for drivers to venture into, only because of the branding that comes around it, which endorses healthier living, as opposed to not paying attention to a company like Athletic Greens, and you're kind of only in a silo of seeing what's in front of your face in the industry, which is primarily a lot of junk food, fried food, barbecue, all that sort of stuff. But like creatine is the number one supplement I always recommend to people, mainly because, fun fact, creatine, actually, there's been more scientific research on creatine than Tylenol. And it's been studied for almost like over 200 or 250 years on what its benefits are. And I think Jeremy's sound cut out. But so the overall benefits and what it does for what it can do for you. So not just so it helps with hydration, and obviously brings hydration to muscles and helps with muscle recovery. But for the studies have been done on sleep, hormones, hair, skin, nail, again. And creatine is naturally found in red meat. So this isn't like just a random supplement. Creatine is natural in our food, so it's not like something that you're taking that's foreign to what you're normally getting. However, but just getting a little bit more helps with so many things. There's been studies done on how it reduces anxiety, depression, mental health. There's a lot out there. Once again, I want to get this out there to people who are listening, not necessarily watching. That's why I've kept this comment up of Tom Bell talking about Quick Trip. So Quick Trip, not to be confused with QT. We're talking the KWIK Trip and Quick Star. They have packaged meals, $4.99, $5.99. But you don't have to eat everything in the container. Good call. You can eat only some of the stuff. And either way, as Jeremy comes back in, I do want to give a shout out to this comment though, because I when it comes to these diets, so he talks about he says if you decide to go carnivore or keto, buy a bucket. And I will say that that's the truth. So working in the fitness side of the industry, I always stray away from recommending. Again, it's not within my. It's not in my scope of practice to prescribe meal plans. I'm not a nutritionist, but I can give general advice, and I generally stray people away from fad diets. Number one, I've done keto before. I tried it when I was severely overweight in 2017. It does quote unquote work. It works in a sense where it puts you in a caloric deficit. And because you're probably cutting out things that are very calorie dense in a way. But like he said, if you do carnivore keto, you will your body will start to you'll have some runs, and if you're a driver doing it. But the reason why I stray away from fad diets, anybody out there, is their sustainability. So realistically, like I said, I've never given up ice cream. I've never given up Terry Black's barbecue. I've never given up bread. I've never given up anything. And fad diets, whether it's keto, vegan, Whole30, it's their sustainability. And it's the idea of, we're not talking about, when it comes to weight loss, weight management, it's not about like losing 20 pounds in 8 weeks. It's not about how much weight you can lose in a certain amount of time. It's about losing the weight and then keeping it off. Because the only way to keep it off is you have to stay in those strict guidelines of that diet. And if you haven't built, and again, if that works for some people, if it works, by all means. But for most people, for every 2 people it works for, there's 10,000 people who have yo-yoed based off that diet. So really it's about, how are you going to live the rest of your life? Like we're got to talk about the rest of your life, and you've got to get your set. And if all you're doing is following the structured guidelines of a very restrictive diet, and the second that ends and the wheels are off, you haven't built a habit good enough to where you can then, you haven't solved the problem of because anything off of restriction makes you feel a sense of guilt for if you stave off it does. So it has an effect on mental health. And then you haven't built habits that are sustainable to where you can go out and go get pizza, and then the next day just be right back on your routine. So it's a touchy subject, I know, for people. I think a lot of drivers are open to it because of the high risk of your DOT physical and all those things. But have you dived down any fad diet roads?
I've experimented with my diet a lot, and I think what you're talking about is really an identity shift. So once you understand that your personality is malleable and that you could actually construct, different characters, this is what really changes. So I think that when people are, doing it with the goal of, I'm going to, lose weight or do whatever it might be, I think the goal should be, I need to, become the type of person that has that effect that you want. And it's the same thing with money as well, too. If your goal is that, then I think the better perspective or the better approach to take is just to become the person that is going to have your desired results.
Absolutely. So let's talk equipment real quick. You mentioned air fryer. What do you have on the truck to keep yourself locked in?
Well, just one of those electric skillets, and an air fryer right now, a microwave. That's essentially covers all my basics right there. And I'm able to.
You got a fridge?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course, fridge. Yeah.
So,
which they go out every couple of years. So if you're going to get a fridge, I don't know. I might have had bad luck, but I've went through like 3 or 4 different refrigerators just because when they're vibrating in the truck and stuff. Maybe if I got an RV refrigerator, it might be a little bit more built for this, but they just stopped working. I don't know.
Yeah, the fridge. I've been blessed with my fridges, but I know a guy who this guy. I got to give a shout out to him. His name's Ben. He's driving for Walmart now, and I'm not sure if he has his Walmart truck set up this way because I don't know if he's allowed. But he used to lease with Warren Transport. He's the guy who got me over to be driving for Warren, and he took his passenger seat out, and he had it wasn't like a full fridge, but he had like a half size fridge in there, and he took out his passenger seat, and he would put his Concept 2 rower there. So he had a rowing machine like that you'd see at like a CrossFit gym. And then he took out like the whole side, and he had like a fridge that's like maybe 3 feet tall, like three and a half feet tall or whatever, like a big one like that. I think setting your environment, like you said, matters. I think equipping your truck with the ability to do that is going to help remove people's inhibitions.
that equipment too. I think I've even seen little sauna sleeping bags. I don't know. They can have like infrared and like sauna sleeping bags. So if I know a lot of people like to incorporate like ice baths and sauna in their health routines, and that's something I've considered as well too, because you can get on Amazon and you can see them. They're relatively cheap and inexpensive. And I don't know necessarily the ideal place to do that to do that, because I wouldn't want to do it in my bunk, but maybe I don't know, in the back of a trailer or something like that, or maybe on the catwalk. Even not. It's kind of hard to tell, but just to have these options, get some heat, in you.
Yeah, a lot to be said. I know we should do a whole Clubhouse. We could talk about wellness. I'd love that. I can bring on some real crunchy people to talk about wellness. But man, yeah, the idea of the science that's coming out regarding saunas, with just 20 minutes a day. I think real popular brand out there is a Sisu, which is a Finnish word, I think, for grit or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Either way, I think that's the only translation. But he went on the Nick Bear podcast, which if anybody watching Nick Bear's podcast is a great one, and he's basically talking about how 20 minutes in the sauna or more per day can how it reduces cardiovascular disease, and it reduces risk of all cause mortality by a huge margin. Just from getting into hot weather. Here's Tom Bell's equipment, by the way. He's got the Alpha Cool freezer fridge, Hot Logic Mini, George Foreman grill, and electric skillet. That's what he's got in the truck. So if you're a driver out there watching, if you're on Instagram, whatever platform, number one, yeah, if you're tuning in live, what have you got with you over the road? Feel free to drop a comment down below. If you got any questions, drop them down below about general overall nutrition. Again, kind of getting into how what I was able to, I think, I want to say Tom Bell had a great measure of this. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And so if it comes to really wanting to take control, when having we just talked about meal prepping, having a plan. And when it comes to tracking your calories, it seems tedious. It seems hard, especially if you have to punch in numbers. But if you start off and you look at every day, you just look at the 24 hours you have in front of you, and say you're trying to lose 2 pounds a week, and it says you've got to eat 2,000 calories per day. And if you give yourself grace and you just say, I'm going to hit this 4 out of 7 days, and you do that for 2 weeks. And this is a program, and I've developed this program, for coaching people, and I've done it in the past. If you can for 2 weeks, so 4 out of 7 days, so that's 8. So that's technically, if you're doing 8 out of 14. So 8 out of 14 days, you were locked in on those numbers, then good. The third week, go 5 of those 7, just 5 of those 7. So that means you can totally go off the rails. Just look at the next 24 hours in front of you. And if you could just focus on those numbers alone. And again, I think a lot of the reason why I wanted to do this Clubhouse and talk about this is it's not talked about enough. And I think the number one cause of, metabolic dysfunction and people being, overweight or suffering from obesity is education. Because it's exactly why I got overweight. I didn't grow up I didn't grow up with any of these sorts of habits, like this idea, or knowing I didn't grow up with that. I didn't know anything about this sort of stuff. I figured people who were skinny later in life were lucky, or they were pro athletes. And it's just the education of knowing that this is kind of what you have to do because of the cards we're dealt, where most people aren't working laborious jobs that much anymore.
Yeah.
Even drivers, it's a sedentary job. If you're a flatbedder, a little bit different, but it's primarily a sedentary job. It's a hard job. You're still working hard, regardless of whether you're on your feet or not. But when you do that, there is a cost. Your science is going to take over, and your body's going to adapt to that environment, to what you're doing to it. And so I think that's why it's important to say, hey, you've kind of got to lock it in, build these habits, and then it becomes like an 80-20. After a certain amount of time, once you reach a level to where you want to be, 80% of the time, you're still locked in, eating healthy. And then You go to the baseball game with your kids and enjoy the hot dog. You go to the barbecue with your friends and family and do that. That's kind of how it becomes.
Yeah, and that's why I like what you're doing so much, because you're out here creating conversations and getting people engaged and talking about this stuff, because making people aware of these little things. Like, hey, what are you doing out there? We could all see that you're out there winning. So just sharing your experiences, how we learn from each other and what's happening in the industry and in our lives. Because honestly, our health is the priority, and so for me, I had to kind of look at how am I living my life in harmony with my priorities. So that's how I kind of, when I do my self-reflection, I'm like, okay, what's important to me? And for me, it's my time. That's the most important thing you have, is your time. Once it's gone, you're not getting it back. So am I doing the things that are going to give me a lot more time here and a healthy body? So this is, again, coming back to that, sharing these conversations and learning and pursuing our values of, taking care of ourselves.
Absolutely. And I'd also say, I mean, one of the most important things to you too is your family. You got 4 kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm going to be here for them to see my great grandbabies. I'm going to be here I'm going to break 100. That's my goal.
I mean, I think the Centurion,
Yeah.
I know Centurion. Yeah, I think they are centenarians is what they're called. People who live into their hundreds, or
Yep.
centurions were in the Roman army. But yeah, centenarians, because octogenarians, I think that's the term
Yep.
for it.
Octogenarian. Yeah.
That's the philosophy I mainly try to really bring into the industry. Is number one, people work in this industry, people drive trucks, and people work in the trucking industry for one reason. It's to support your you get a job to support your family. You're supporting your family. Like at the end of the day, that's why people are getting into it. Some
Yep.
people are different. Like maybe they're nomadic. They want that lifestyle. Sure, there's that. But for the most part, people are here because they want to support their families, and it can be a viable career option. And so again, and you also just said time is the most valuable thing. I'd say any driver would say that their time is very valuable. And so if you don't, because that's the thing, a lot of the reason why the health takes a back burner is because guys need the miles. Guys need the money, because the miles are the money. However, on a long enough timeline, again, the same way we view our finances in decade, like we can't be thinking about 8 weeks or every 4 years. Like we need to be thinking about things in our life, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. And so if you are 40, so again, I said it at the top, the average life expectancy of a driver is 61. You don't just wake up and die at 61. You started dying 25, 30 years prior to that. And it's compounded over that time. Like if you suffer a heart attack at the age of 50, that started in your 20s. Like it didn't start within the last like 4 years or so. Like it didn't start because you fell off for 2 years and all of a sudden you had a heart attack. Obviously there's anomalies, genetics. I know that plays a factor, but for the most part, things like heart disease and diabetes, you didn't just have a tough year and became a diabetic. It's been 25 years of doing that. And so and it's never too late, by the way, for anybody who has started. It's always never too late. So I don't want that to scare anybody. But if you sacrifice your mind and body in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, so when you need the money the most, so because when you're in your 50s, you're in the twilight of your career. You're ideally making the most amount of money. You're eyeing you're in the twilight of your career. You're also probably at the stage of life where your friends might be starting businesses. Your kids are graduating high school, getting married, going to college, graduating college, and so you run the risk of being in a position to not being able to do the job anymore. One, per DOT physical, losing limbs due to diabetes, a heart attack that can kill you. Like, so if you sacrifice, so it's either you sacrifice the money you'd make just getting maybe a couple extra miles or doing one more load. You either sacrifice that throughout your career, or it will come. Those dues will get paid when it would be the worst possible time. Like that rent gets due at the most inconvenient time if you put it on the back burner. And big shout out to Tom for really tuning in. He's got there's so many avenues. He's got an e-bike that he's put on it. It's helped him out. you can make excuses or make progress decision. And dude, this is funny. With my high level of income in modern science, no reason I can't live to 140 or 150. He's right. But hey, man, dude, it's been nice yapping with you. What else you got out there? So,
Yeah.
any other tips and tricks of the road? I know you're probably getting close to Eau Claire, and I don't want to steal
Yeah.
too much of your time.
No, that's about it for as far as health. Just keep an eye out on what you're eating, what you're thinking about, and what you're doing with your body, because that's the foundation right there. Once you get those locked in, you're set, and it's going to put you on a path that you're really going to want to be on. So, thank you very much for having me. It's always great chatting with you. I know you're out here doing the Lord's work, so keep doing what you're doing, and I'm going to see you next time around.
Hey, yeah, we're looking to, like I said, I'm going to set it up and we'll post about it. But on Monday evening, so this coming Monday, we'll come up. We're going to talk about some truck leasing and stuff next. We talk about other topics. If you guys see the banner at the bottom of the screen, again, so Jeremy, I just want to give him a quick highlight. So Jeremy's a driver trainer over at Rail. He's an owner operator over there, doing really great work. But on top of that, Jeremy's the type of guy who he's trying to leave the industry better than he found it. And he's doing, I mean, in more ways than one. Clearly he's promoting healthy living to his students. He's leading by example with his drivers. But on top of that, he's out there helping other drivers find parking. And I think, and again, we've got the logo here at the banner at the bottom of the screen. If you're a driver out there who also cares about the industry, wants to leave it better than they found it, that's exactly what Truck Parking Club is. That's who we're here for. And you have an opportunity to help some drivers while you're out there over the road. We did, so Jeremy is one of our partners. He partners with us, and you can use his promo code. Which, by the way, so if you're looking for a spot tonight, his code is Rames20. So his last name and the number 20, all lowercase. It'll get you $20 off a booking. And if you're a driver who's active on social media, a kind of somebody who wants to help the industry and help drivers get parking, because that's another, we talked about nutrition. Parking is still one of the top 3 major issues in the American Transportation Research Institute. It adds stress to people's lives. It's a reason why they maybe can't live a healthy lifestyle. And we're on the border of 2,000 properties nationwide. And so if you're a driver who wants to help some drivers get parked and work with us, we've got the link at the bottom of the screen. Definitely worth your time to click it, check it out. You can find me on all social media everywhere, Lombard Trucking. Drop me a line if you're trying to get involved in this mission. Like I said, we're mission driven. Jeremy is mission driven. I'm mission driven. Truck Parking Club is mission driven on helping on solving the truck parking crisis that's going on in this country. Again, just to reiterate, this is a problem where just due to the lack of safe parking, just the lack of safe parking alone is causing an on average of 55 fatalities per year. So not only is this a major safety issue for drivers, it's a safety issue for the general motoring public. And again, it's not good for drivers. The companies don't want you there. You don't want to be on the side of the road. Women don't want to be on the side of the road. It's not a good thing. And so the more we can help solve this problem, the better people's lives can be. That's what we're focused on here. That's what I wake up every day, very much fired up over that. I know Jeremy is too. So if you want to join the club, join the community and hang out again, we're going to be doing these live streams, going to be talking, there's a great team and a community here who's just all trying to help each other win. But other than that, if you got any last words, where can the people find you before I end this live stream? Where can the people find you if they're trying to get in touch?
I'm trying to span out on my social media platforms, but primarily I'm on YouTube. That's where you can catch me at. It's just Rames Transportation out there, but I am going to branch out, and any one of my YouTube videos will have all my link tree or links to my Facebook and Instagram and stuff. So I'm still building, but I'm out there.
Awesome, man. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you grow and to linking up again on Monday. But with that, that'll do it for the Clubhouse today. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Big shout out to Tom Bell out there. If you guys are driving, once again, if you haven't downloaded yet, go to truckparkingclub.com. You download the app. The app's free. See if there's any parking in your area you may or may not need. But either way, till next time, take care. Let's do it.